Bid openings. Moving on to item number 5, and thank you for keeping me on my toes. I'm struggling right now with being able to only hear out of one ear and a little bit of a sore throat, so I'm not feeling exactly the best. Come on over here. Bid openings, Garden Highway Improvement, Epley Drive to Winship. Ben Moody will be the one presenting. Our Public Works Director, Deputy Public Works Director for Engineering. Ben.
Good evening, Mayor Buckland, members of the council. The item before you is regarding the award of the Garden Highway Improvement Project, primarily from Winship to Lincoln is where the road improvements will be taking place, and a storm drain connection down to Epley. This project was brought before you in March of this year, where council approved the authorization of the bids and approved the plans for the project. Staff has since coordinated with Caltrans and the federal government to approve the package and authorize us to bid it. In August of this year, we bid the project, and bids were received as of September 1 this year. The project, it entails road improvements where we're going to have bike lanes, center turn lane, curbs, gutters, sidewalks from Winship to Lincoln, and then to facilitate drainage improvements, a storm drain line will be ran along the east side of the road, beginning in the north end, and carry down south to Epley Drive where it will tie in. The bids were opened on September 1. The engineer's estimate for the project was $1.9 million, put together in March of last year with help from our consultant, Bennett Engineering, who did the primary design and put the engineer's estimate together with review from the city. Unfortunately, the bids came in a little higher than anticipated. The low bid being Lehman Construction of the city of Yuba City, 2.1. When we evaluated the bids, the primary difference was the traffic control and the storm drain improvements. Were considerably different than the engineer's estimate. Basically, the bids are put together based on the most relevant data that the city has, coordination with contractors, any material costs or fluctuations in the economy we look at to see if prices are going up in asphalt, or if we have recession going on, or different things are put into consideration. Unfortunately, with this one, we were off $200,000, a couple $100,000 from the engineer's estimate, but we still think it's a good project and a good bid. It was put out. We had six solid bids from it, and there's not really, with the work that we want done, we think it's all important to get that roadway improved and get those improvements done in that location. The overall project cost is anticipated to be about $2.5 million, which will include the contract amount, contingencies, and then also project management. Will we use all of 2.5? Most likely not. We usually shoot to minimize the contingencies and minimize the staff time, but we like to have a little bit of budget put in place to facilitate the project. With that, federal money is being used, $680,000 from CMAQ funds and for the bike lane construction, and then $460,000 of federal CDBG money is being used for the sidewalk construction. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. And our recommendations to facilitate the project is to award the contract, Garden Highway Improvements, in the amount of the bid, $2,107,149. Authorize the city manager to execute the contract on behalf of the city following approval by the city attorney, and authorize a supplemental appropriation of $250,000 of unallocated Transportation Development Act road funds to account 91-1153 Garden Highway Improvements. Be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions of Ben?
Through the mayor.
Go ahead.
I do have one question, Ben. At the Winship intersection, are we going to be putting in underground wiring or conduit to facilitate future signalization of that intersection?
So staff looked at it, and in order to coordinate the improvements, the road improvements in this area, with the past road overlay, we came down to about here. And so in order to facilitate putting the conduit in across the road in a location that's not really, it's unknown right now, because with future development here, this curb's going to get set back, and then based on utilities, we don't quite know where that's at. So staff felt that the advantage of putting a conduit back a ways wasn't necessarily advantageous at this time to avoid cutting and we didn't want to cut it to make a cut across the relatively new asphalt to the north there. So
understand. That was our main concern in the first place. So
Yeah.
if it means going to cutting something open that we've already done, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Thank you.
and we definitely by policy we have typically a 5-year moratorium where we try not to cut anything within the new roadways. So typically, if a development comes in here sooner, we would request that they bore that crossing.
Okay. Thank you.
Through the mayor. This is only really kind of an observance, is that lately on some of the bids, I don't know what's been happening, but we've been, the bids have come in higher, starting to come in higher consistently again. I remember there was a season like that when I was on the board, things kept jumping, and then there was a time when they started coming in lower. I think we might be at that time to start really, going out a little bit higher on some things, and really looking at some scrutiny on some of the bids that we're putting out, our estimates, because we might be having that increased time again. So just an observance that we might need to be a little more diligent on those numbers.
Definitely a note taken. We feel that also with session kind of ending,
Supply and demand.
supply and demand with the
it's happening.
contractors and project specific with the night work and the traffic control. That the city's definitely going to look at every estimate that goes out and try to make sure that we have adequate funding.
Things are changing, so just encouraging a little more extra caution on that. Thank you.
Well, I don't disagree with the vice mayor's position on that. I would say that an adjustment for what we're seeing as a rise possibly in what is provided in the engineer's estimate itself, we still want to keep that as a fairly conservative number.
Mm-hmm.
That allows for good balance to determine whether or not the taxpayers are getting the best bang for their buck on any given project. I know that facing some public scrutiny when a project goes well over an engineer's estimate, what isn't looked at is the underlying factors of change orders, additional work, undisclosed items that may be within the contract. So we're aware of those issues, and especially when we start dealing with utilities, where utilities may be running underneath surfaces that aren't at the proper grade and depth. So we always have to make those changes, and then certainly some design changes that have to happen on the fly can cause increased costs, and those design changes are normally awarded based on what is best for the project. So with that, I would agree that we need to look at some adjustment, maybe upward in those specific to what some of the current requirements are and what the construction companies want. But this is one of these key projects here in Yuba City that is certainly being looked forward to by everyone that lives south of Winship Road along Garden Highway, because most of them own old pickup trucks that rattle now as a result of that one stretch of the road. And certainly the drainage in there will improve safety on that roadway. Any other questions? If not, action from the council.
Through the mayor.
Go ahead.
I'd like to move for approval of the bid on this item.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Thank you very much, Ben. They're going to start to work on that tomorrow.
Within 30 days.
Within 30 days is tomorrow. So